Some people think it's a very controversial thing to say, to equate Nazism to Islam, but I don't think there is any problem with that. I think Islam in itself is a horrible religion and has very many similarities to Nazism in the way it executes things in society. I would even say that Islam is, considering the timeline of Nazism and the timeline of Islam, much worse than Nazism.
It seems like anyone who's an ex-Muslim today is automatically an expert in Islam. How does that happen? Seriously. I gave up on eating beef for a couple of weeks not too long ago. Don't ask why. What does that make me? Does that make me some sort of an expert on carnivorous dietary? I think not. It's absurd. Unfortunately, the anti-Muslim propagandist machine is trying to clutch at straws in order to make their claims legit, and thus the birth of the ex-Muslim mini-celebrity. In other words, a cringy, ignorant guy in his late 20s is all of a sudden an expert on Islam, when in reality all he's doing is rehashing arguments that you can find on other anti-Islamic websites that were written by some other bigots. Ridvan Aydemir, who likes to be called Rico, is the person who's running the Apostate Prophet channel, which has over 50,000 subs, and he's getting crazy views. This guy is making around $1,200 through Patreon per month. Why? Because he's an ex-Muslim who's supposedly an expert on Islam. Well, to be precise, 1,190 per month from his Islamophobic fan base, and an extra $10 from yours truly, who's trying to, kind of snoop and see what's going on his page. To satisfy your curiosity, he doesn't post in the community section of his Patreon. He has linked to a Facebook group where he supposedly will be present, where, surprise, surprise, he doesn't post there either. I demand a refund. And I'm sure that Ridvan's gonna give me that refund because, after all, he's a really nice guy.
I thought all my life I have been a good human. I have respected others, their rights. I have never wished bad for anyone. I never hated.
Sounds like a nice guy, right?
I was involved in a robbery. It's a shame. I'm over it. I don't do such things anymore, gladly. Then I became a communist, a revolutionary communist, and even supported an illegal urban guerrilla organization, a terrorist organization in Turkey that was very active in blowing themselves up in the street.
But that stuff is all in the past, so let's move on. When he was a Muslim, he was a Naqshbandi. A Naqshbandi is a Sufi sect. And here's what he has to say about the Naqshbandis.
I was in Sufism. They make weird practices that some of you might have seen online. And I was in those practices. You might have seen parodies of that online, quite funny ones, by the way.
What you're not supposed to do is call the sect that you were affiliated to in the past idiots and make fun of them. You're not supposed to do that. In any case, so Ridvan sees Naqshbandis as idiots, but however, he himself is a very scholarly person, even though he was from among them, but he was the scholarly Naqshbandi from among them.
I have read the Quran more than 3 times. I studied the Hadith thoroughly. I studied Islam thoroughly. I studied basically everything about Islam. I can carefully say that I know more than 85% of all Muslims about Islam.
Alright, so the Naqshbandis were idiots, okay, I understand, but you Radvan, you know your stuff, mashallah. And we should take your word for it, right? No, we shouldn't. We shouldn't take your word for it, thus this video. So, in this video, I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on Ridvan, my problems with him, and I have a bunch of problems with him, but I'm going to try and narrow them down. My first problem is his misinformation. The second problem is his pandering to non-Muslims, especially to Christians, because that's where the money comes from. And thirdly, Thirdly, his ignorance, his extreme ignorance about Islam. And fourthly, his alternative to Islam. Is going to be fun. Without further ado, let's get to it.
I want to share experience, information, and my perspective on things on this channel. I want to do factual criticism. Now, there are many people online who do this, who decide to build an account about Islam, to post things about Islam. But to be very honest, I see a lot of misinformation there. I wouldn't have a problem with that if everything was just about making Islam bad. But that's not what this is about. Because if someone who doesn't agree with you comes to you, listens to what you say, and you say them totally false, totally wrong things, and this person goes through some fact-checking, then this person won't believe you anymore. He won't trust you anymore.
Exactly. And that's why you should not trust Ridvan. As we all know, the crimes of a people or a society cannot be attributed to a religion, especially if that religion condemns those actions. So for example, everybody knows that Catholic priests have a habit of sleeping around with little choir boys. But is it fair to condemn Catholicism for those actions? Well, of course not. However, Ridvan, I think, will. No, wait, he wouldn't, because Ridvan doesn't want that hurting his Patreon donation fund. So, for now, here are a few examples.
Female genital mutilation can happen in different forms. The whole clitoris can be removed, and if you have any sex ed, you probably know how tragic this to a woman is. This cannot be properly undone, and removes women's ability to feel one of the most natural pleasures. It robs them of their natural pleasures, and it can even kill them.
This is very deceptive. You see, female genital circumcision is known medically as clitoral hood reduction. Now, this procedure does not rob women from sexual pleasure, and it definitely does not kill them. In fact, it is a procedure that is endorsed by the American Society of Plastic Surgeons. They even marketed it as vaginal rejuvenation. And the procedure is available in the United States. Well, you may ask, are there any evidences that Islam condemns female genital mutilation? Of course, I say yes. And Ridvan is aware of this. Ridvan is quoting a hadith that says so right here in the same video.
A woman used to perform circumcision in Medina. The Prophet said to her, "Do not cut severely, as that is better for a woman and more desirable for a husband." I didn't fall asleep. I almost fell asleep. No, I didn't fall asleep, no.
Next, the castration of slaves.
The Ottoman Empire didn't want to put up with sexually active men working for them in their own homes, which is why most slaves were castrated from childhood. But this is not a practice that belonged only to the Ottoman Empire. That practice came into the Ottoman Empire from Islamic rule and Arabs. If you think mainly castrated black men traded on open squares in the capitals of big empires is an example of peace, go ahead and call it so.
Ibn Hazm in Maratib al-Ijma' page 157 states that there is a consensus among Islamic scholars that castrating slaves is not permissible. The existence of castrated slaves in an ancient society does not mean that the religion of that society endorses that vile act. Take, for example, ancient Rome, a Christian society that included castrated slaves. Does that mean that Christianity endorses this act?
Sleeping is always good.
Next, honor killing.
One day, I was totally shocked. I took a nap during the day. I woke up, saw my mother crying, and then when I asked her what happened, she told me that my aunt was killed in Germany by her own husband. Honor killing, a Muslim thing.
No, honor killings is not a Muslim thing. Honor killings exists in Hindu cultures. It exists in Latino cultures in South America where they refer to it as crimes of passion. It's not a Muslim thing. It's not an Islam thing. I looked into Ridvan's case further and found more details in an article he wrote. He states that his aunt's husband threatened her over playing card games online. She then got a restraining order before he finally got a gun and killed her. To be honest, I don't know how this falls under the definition of honor killing, and more importantly, I don't know what this has to do with Islam. Ridvan, I'm sorry for your loss, but This really has nothing to do with Islam. Now, one theme that keeps coming up, especially in the advanced Q&A sessions, is his refusal to criticize other religions, especially Christianity.
I don't think I'm in a place to talk very much about Christianity and Judaism, but I know a fair bit of both religions.
Someone is saying, why do Abrahamic faiths have stories that are very similar to stories that are more old than Judaism?
Yeah, that's what I just meant when I talked about Sumerian religions. I don't know. I mean, you can make a lot of speculations about it, but to be honest, I think it's I don't know. I wouldn't want to talk about it. I wouldn't want to answer that question. I think it's not a focus of my activity online. Many people ask me about that, why I don't believe in God, and I have many reasons not to believe in God. But I usually don't want to speak about that because my activities focus on Islam, and I don't want to go on spreading atheism, spreading my ideas, and bashing all other religions and stuff like that.
Isn't that interesting? I don't want to go around spreading atheism. I think there's more to it than what meets the eye. Let's see what he has to say when he's asked about Christianity.
Although I don't have a problem with Judaism and I don't have a problem with Christianity at all. I find Christianity beautiful. And I even told my wife recently, I wish it was true. Recently, quite a personal moment, I sat down with my wife and was just kidding about specific things and started reading verses from the New Testament. And I thought, this really is nice. This really is good. This is beautiful.
Now, it doesn't really take a high IQ to realize that Ridvan is simply pandering to his Christian audience, or rather, David Wood's Christian audience. So I wonder how many subs he got from that video, from his appearance on David Wood's channel. If he were to share his real opinion about other religions, that would be hurting his fan base and he wouldn't be making as much money as he'd like.
Okay, now that I have arrogantly presented my merchandise, especially this cup, which is very beautiful, very nice, you see that? And this wonderful hoodie also, this wonderful hoodie, which you can also get below in the description through the link. Let's continue. Joey Severin made a comment in Turkish saying, okay, the things you say are nice and good, but you should still talk about all the other religions. I'm sorry, I won't. And I'm always glad to see the unity in my comment section, to see Hindus in my comment section, atheists, anti-theist atheists, Christians, Jews, and so many other people. I like that. Beth, yeah, as Beth said, there are a lot of Christians on this channel. I wouldn't even. I actually want to make a survey about that to find out what everyone believes in, what people who choose to support me think, and stuff like that. But I think the way it looks right now, there is a dominance of Christians, Hindus, and atheists, kind of, on this channel right now. And I see a lot of Christians, a lot of Hindus, a lot of atheists, and that's exactly what I want. I don't want to come here and say, oh, I'm against all religions equally. They are all horrible. Why would I do that? Why would I want to divide everything?
In other words, he doesn't want the cash to go anywhere else. So there was one time where Ridvan equated another religion to Islam. In the next clip, he's going to equate Judaism to Islam.
The Quran is like boom, 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 boom. It's like the Old Testament.
As bad as the Old Testament.
I'm sorry. Much worse even.
Oh, nice save.
Okay, let me stop commenting on this.
Yeah, good idea. Now, this next clip is a very important one. Pay close attention to what he's going to say here.
And I did do that. I went into studying Christianity and Judaism and other religious beliefs and so on. And I didn't find, and I can openly, clearly say this, I said this from the very beginning, I didn't find any other religion as morally disturbing, as disgusting as Islam was.
Nothing morally disturbing as Islam. Let's look through Ridvan's videos on his channel in order to examine his double standards, shall we? Observe the following titles: How Islam Advocates Slavery, You see, slavery is actually endorsed in the New Testament in multiple verses. Refer to the following verses. Islamic inbreeding. In this video, Ridwan attacks Islam for permitting marriages with cousins. Ridwan should also condemn Judaism and Christianity, for the exact same thing can be found in Leviticus 18. The chapter also includes a list of the forms of prohibited marriages, and there is no mention of cousins. Persecution of ex-Muslims in Islam is a video about apostasy. Refer to Deuteronomy 13:9. Islamic child abuse, see Proverbs 23:13. Jihad, the holy war for Allah, just refer to the Old Testament. And the list goes on. So as you can see, Ridwan has an issue, a moral issue, not just with Islam, but with Christianity and Judaism as well. But he doesn't want to say that because he's pandering to his Christian and Jewish audiences, because if he doesn't, that's going to hurt his cash flow.
Although I don't have a problem with Judaism and I don't have a problem with Christianity at all. I find Christianity beautiful. I have read the Quran more than 3 times. I studied the Hadith thoroughly. I studied Islam thoroughly. I studied basically everything about Islam. I can carefully say that I know more than 85% of all Muslims about Islam.
So being an ex-Muslim, of course, doesn't mean that you're an expert in Islam. That has been established in the beginning of the video. That being said, I had to watch a lot of Ridwan's content, and I had to cut off a lot of ignorant stuff that he's been saying to, kind of bring it down to my top 5. I have a few honorable mentions as well. Alright, so before starting off, here are a couple of tweets by Ridwan. He commented on a post about a mosque being built in the wrong direction by saying, 37 years of prayer for nothing. Now, for someone that has read the Quran 3 times, he should know better. I respond to this in a tweet myself by saying, the Quranic verse that says, and Allah would never make your faith, prayers, to be lost. Truly Allah is full of kindness, the most merciful towards mankind. He also suggested that Aisha would be a part of the Me Too movement. I respond, of course, by saying, somebody please tell this expert that Aisha actively preached that Muhammad, peace be upon him, was a divinely appointed prophet for another 50 years after his death, and so did his other oppressed wives. In other words, Aisha never saw herself as a victim, but rather she was happy with the marriage.
Another issue is that Muhammad married the wife of his son-in-law Zayd, which caused a problem among Arabs because that was a taboo, to marry the wife of your son-in-law.
Zayd bin Haritha was one of the most significant people in the history of Islam. He was not the son-in-law of Muhammad, rather he was the servant of Khadija, who became the adoptive son of the Prophet, peace be upon him. You should know that, Ridwan. But you don't.
Kill them, for whoever kills them shall have reward on the day of resurrection. Now this hadith is not just some word that doesn't need to be taken seriously. It is an authentic Sahih hadith and has to be accepted as such by each and every person who calls himself a Sunni Muslim. According to the Sunnah, someone who sees a rule in the Quran or the Hadith and rejects it willingly becomes an apostate.
This is really absurd. If this makes you an apostate, then Daraqutni is an apostate for rejecting hadith from al-Bukhari, Ibn Ammar al-Shahid is an apostate for rejecting hadith from Sahih Muslim, al-Bukhari is an apostate for rejecting hadith from Sahih Muslim, and everyone's a friggin' apostate. You, Ridwan, were an apostate before you became an apostate, and I am an apostate as well. Ridwan, that's not how apostasy works.
Muhammad is perfect in Islam. Saying otherwise is heresy. Muhammad in his lifetime fought multiple wars. Many of them were offensive, not all of them were defensive, no matter what moderate Muslims say today. We can find this fact looking at scholars like Wahiduddin Khan.
When I first heard this clip, Wahiduddin Khan, I thought that Ridwan was so next level that he was aware of some researches by some Oriental scholars, some Chinese scholars, some Korean scholars. Wahiduddin Khan. I had to replay the clip twice, 3 times, and I was like, who's this guy? Why? Wahiduddin Khan. Wahiduddin Khan. Wahiduddin Khan.
I can't fucking talk Arabic fluently. Here, you got it. I say it, okay? Another hadith, it says that Ali once killed people, burned people who left Islam, and another companion came and said, you shouldn't have burned them, you should have just killed them.
Did you notice that? Let's play another clip. If you didn't get it the first time, you're gonna get it the second time.
It even says that Ali, the son-in-law of Muhammad, burned a person who left the religion, and then another one came and said that burning is not the appropriate punishment.
Oh, okay, so this one blew my mind. Ridwan has no idea who Ibn Abbas is. The cousin of the Prophet, peace be upon him, the most important commentator on the Qur'an in the history of Islam. Ridwan has never heard of him, doesn't know who Ibn Abbas is. And he refers to him as the other guy.
The actual belief is that Allah split the moon for Muhammad, which is pretty much the only miracle that Muhammad ever performed.
Ridwan, you want to know my refutation? Ridwan.
Yeah. I'll
Here's
come to
my
that very quickly.
refutation.
Can you just give me a second? Very quickly.
That's my refutation, Ridwan. Okay, so we're almost at the end of the video. I just want to recap a few things. Basically, my issues with Ridwan, my problem with this guy is that, one, he keeps on misinforming his audience. Two, he keeps pandering to his non-Muslim audience, especially the Christian audience. Now, three, and I mean the most annoying was, yes, the ignorance, this guy's ignorance in Islam, portraying himself as some sort of, subhanallah. So Ridwan's issue with Islam isn't that it's false, because again, he believes that all religions are false. However, he loves Christianity. So what is Ridwan's issue exactly? His issue is that he has an issue with the morals of Islam.
I talked a lot about how Islam is morally unacceptable because it reduces human dignity to very low levels.
Now that we know what Ridwan's issues with Islam is, I wonder how dignified Ridwan is and how high his moral standards really are.
In America, we have laws in some states, I think. I'm not very familiar with that, to be honest, but just to give the point, in many states, you cannot marry your relatives or this or anything like that, or your siblings, whatever. But if you are above a certain age, then you can, for example, make a marriage that would be biologically considered incest. So, which means if you can't bear children anymore, then you can do it. I'm fine with it. Why not?
So the high moral standards of Ridwan is he sees absolutely no issues with siblings having incest as long as there are no children. Just check out Vidu's reaction to this.
I don't want to agree with it because it sounds disgusting, but there you go. You can fill in the blanks.
So Ridwan has no issues with incest between siblings, I guess incest between homosexual brothers, homosexual sisters, perhaps a father and a son, and a mother and a daughter, or a mother and her son, as long as there are no children involved. Wow. Okay. Those are his high standards.
I don't want to agree with it because it sounds disgusting.
The issue is, guys, you need to be aware that there's no moral objectivity without the existence of God, which is why you'll often find atheists having these twisted moral standards. Alright, I'm done with this video. If you like this video, do smash that like button. If you like this video, just click the like button. Okay? If you like this video, say something in the comments, hit the like button, I don't know, I don't care, whatever, it's not my channel. In all seriousness, guys, for some solid refutations against the Apostate Prophet, you need to check out the Andalusian Project channel and the Turkestan channel. If you have any questions, you can of course reach me via Twitter. Take care of yourself, and as always, remember, stay away from Ridwan.